everybody, and welcome to the Buckeye Breakdown. Owen Smith, Matthew Warner. It's the first live stream, baby.
Oh, baby. Come on. Feels good to be here. This is really cool. We're trying something out a little bit new. This is awesome. I'm excited about it. It helps that the Buckeyes absolutely dog walked Western Michigan the day that the Big Ten, for the most part, struggled in their matchups. So this is exciting stuff. Other than running a fever and feeling like complete shit, I'm jazzed to be here. There it was. I already said shit on the live stream. We're off to a hot start.
YouTube, all the ads we lost all ad revenue. We are now losing money on this podcast.
There went my Peloton.
Well, yeah, Buckeyes win 56-0. First shutout since 2014. I was a week too early on my prediction, which is, first off, crazy. How are we not? Wait, was it 2014 or maybe it was like 2017? It was something stupid, but it's been a while.
Which also blew my mind. If you would ask me, I thought we had at least one last year with this defense. So when I saw that stat, I was like, it just didn't add up at all. Hayden is saying 2019. So sounds like we've got this is already going well. We've got
awesome.
A live fact checker in the comments. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Hayden, we need you on the pod, brother. We need the viewers, so stay there for a little bit, but we'll get you on once the viewership gets up and stuff. So but yeah, man, it was crazy to think. I mean, it's been a while since they have shut out a team. Again, a week too early for me on my bet, and I think the odds were juiced even a little more just because things can happen. Give up a 50-yard field goal here and there. But yeah, I mean, dominant performance. We talked so much last week about how frustrating the first quarter was, how things were just a little slow. It's the first, we expect so much of this team, but there's things were slow. We didn't love it. So didn't feel that 1 ounce this week.
No,
it felt like things were clicking from the minute it started.
It was this time last year that I remember having all the conversations with Buckeye fans and with my friends of we might have some issues offensively. You could already see that things just weren't clicking. You and I talked about it at length last week of you got to start hot. Want to see aggressive play calling, and Chip Kelly was phenomenal in this game. Got everybody involved and just called a very, very solid offensive game. And I told you my MVP, and I cheated. I said it's going to be Quinshon Judkins, but it's going to be Quinshon Judkins because of how good that offensive line was, and they were. Western Michigan on paper is probably a better football team than Akron. And it was like a night and day difference between that offensive line play in week 2 than it was week 1. So it was a ton of fun.
Still missing Donovan Jackson. So he still didn't dress.
Yeah. When you add in a first round draft pick onto that offensive line. And now he has the luxury of, he sat out this week. We got some, experienced, for guys that won't be in that starting position, and we get a bye week. So you're going to get a very fresh, healthy Donovan Jackson as we head into Marshall with this kind of weird bye week that we have right now. But it was just a lot of fun. It felt like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when it was just this, everything felt smooth. The ball moved very effortlessly. There were very minimal mistakes that you could look at and go, obviously the misthrow from Howard to Jeremiah Smith was a big one, but then he answered immediately and went out and had a phenomenal drive right after that. It was just good football, obviously on both sides. You pitch a shutout. It's very funny. I was thinking about the defense MVP. You go look at the stat sheet and you're like, nobody lit it up. It was just this collective effort when you've got 15, 16, 17 guys that are consistently rotating in and making big plays. It's just a luxury that not a lot of defenses had, and not one guy stood out above the rest in that game. So just all around, after what had occurred earlier that day, it was a Saturday to sit, watch the night game, and just enjoy some really good Buckeye football.
For sure. Yeah, man. Chip Kelly, like he won me over this week. I mean, I knew he was gonna lead to a lot of good things for the program, both for, you know, play calling itself, but also just the idea of Ryan Day stepping back, being more in the moment. Like I think that's going to be a constant theme throughout this entire season, is just like how different game days are going to look with him, but also just like having a guy up in the box, just scheming up with weapon. Like, you know, he's had NFL talent. He's had, you know, pretty decent talent at Oregon, but you got, you know, Hayden calling out Jeremiah Smith. You got Emeka Egbuka. You got Trevion Judkins. Like, he is just going to be having a heyday. And one of the things that I loved, and I cannot wait for the moment, he's doing like a run pass option. Like, he almost has the
beautiful little, like, Howard keeps it. The defense thinks he's on the outside, and then you just have like a quick out to, you know, Tate or Egbuka, like these quick little 5-6 yard chunk plays where the defense is like, what the hell do I take away?
Yeah, right.
Wait for the days when, you know, they haven't seen it a ton on tape and Howard takes off for 15, 20 yards down the field. It's going to be phenomenal. Most athletic RPO that Hayden has ever seen in the comments, which might be a little ambitious, but I appreciate it. No, the other thing that I've enjoyed so far, just early on in this season, somebody tweeted, and it was spot on. You know, Ryan Day getting ready to take a ref's head off. You know, I think it was around the end of the third quarter over a silly penalty, and somebody was like, "This is the kind of psycho that I needed to see from Ryan Day for me to believe he can go win a national championship." And I think now that play calling is off of his plate and he just focuses on, you know, the big picture of the game, he seems to have this different energy about him on the sideline. It's been a ton of fun to watch. He seems more relaxed, but also has this really good fire about him. And it's because he can focus on other things other than what the next play that needs to be called is.
Yeah, man, it's going to pay off a ton. And I'm already thinking too far in the future. Like, I really hope that Chip Kelly, like, is just here for a while. Like, I really need Ryan Day to settle into this role. I can't have him like going and finding a head coaching job at some, you know,
you look
lower level Power 4 or whatever.
You look on both sides of the ball and you're like, okay, we've got Jim Knowles, who could probably go get a head coaching job anytime he wanted, and we have Chip Kelly.
Went to Duke last year.
And have Chip Kelly, who can go. So it's like, I agree with you. You know, I think if the Buckeyes are fortunate enough to make the run that we expect to make, I think that's almost inevitable that those things happen. But we'll keep our fingers crossed that we can win the big one and maintain the staff. And who knows, maybe some of these seniors will come back for another year, you know, get Trevion and Judkins. And we're just like, no, we're playing one more. I've seen 28-year-olds out here playing football this year. Let the kids have one more year of eligibility.
I think the NCAA is talking about doing like a fifth year, like even without a red shirt or something stupid. Yeah, I don't know. There's
a fifth year option.
Yeah, it's like something.
Now that they all have agents, they can sign a fifth year option. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The other thing, you know, we can get into all of it. I have like a very, it's not an original idea. I will say this, and I'll look forward to the comments on this. But before we get to an irresponsible comment that I made through our text thread on the weekend, I want to talk about the young guys as well. Saying 4th and 1, Tutty to Bennett Christian. I mean,
beautiful.
Come on now, DB. Looking like a guy that we're never going to really be able to see, but he's looking like a guy.
Yeah. You and I talked about it. It seems like he has had just like has not had the easy opportunities. And anytime he stepped on the field for the Buckeyes, like Julian Sain scored on 4th and 1. Julian Sain also hit about as wide open of a guy as you possibly could on 4th and 1. And if you're Western Michigan's defense, you're probably thinking, hey, we're expecting a run here, and we draw up a little, play action to a tight end, and the guy goes and scores. Like, Devin Brown hasn't had that big highlight play. And you and I talked about it, and we just got a question on it. Like, he's got to transfer, right?
On this note, and I've been saving this, I forgot to put it in the show notes. I'm throwing out a bad scenario right here, because here's the problem with college football right now. There's a window that opens before the playoffs really kicks off, before you really get into the thick of things.
Yeah.
Are we any concern that he transfers and that? I mean, I think you got to chase the natty, right? Like, that's the selfish thing in me. Like, chase the natty, be there, be around. But like, is there any ounce of concern that the guy goes, I got to go get in a program, play through spring, do all the stuff, and then you kind of put yourself in a position for Sayin to be QB2 in the event that something happens to Howard in a playoff scenario? I don't know. Just throwing some things out there, but just a thought that's been running through my head.
I think just the way he's handled this so far, like, Devin Brown had every right to transfer out this year. The fact that he came back, he does not strike me as a guy that is going to say, I'm going to get out early while we're in the middle of this amazing season. And I think from a culture standpoint, I think he kind of embodies being a Buckeye. He's here, burn the boats. That was him. But I think as we get to the end of the season, the writing will be on the wall. And there's already talks now about, is Julian Sayin the QB2?
Could be.
The QB2 battle is already heating up a little bit. So it all depends on how that progresses throughout the year. If there's more opportunities for both of them to see the field and Sayin ends up being the much better option, he may transfer out, but who knows?
Who knows?
Staying on the offensive side of the football, I do want to address one of the questions. Obviously we have seen some sparks, and I've seen this question being thrown around online already. The early Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Jeremiah Smith. We're 2 games into this young man's career. Keep in mind, Marv did not hardly see the field his freshman year, but had a little bit more of a stacked wide receiver room. I don't think anybody would argue with you that Jeremiah Smith has a really good chance, not just to beat Marvin Harrison Jr. out, but to be one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play football at Ohio State. And when you think about the people that have come through here, that is a very, very tall task. But this kid's a freak.
So, yes. So, Mason, you beat me to the punch, because the irresponsible thing that I said on Saturday is I irresponsible, but I think Jeremiah Smith might already be my favorite wide receiver of all time, and he's played 2 games, and I think that I prefer him over Marv already, which is a crazy statement to make. But now taking it a step further, and again, this is where I don't have an original thought on this, so give credit. I think it was Kings of Columbus, they're another Ohio State podcast. A debate that they had was, would you take Marvin Harrison as he is today? Hayden, you called it out. 1 catch for 4 yards. Now it's in the NFL, a little bit different. Would you take Marvin Harrison as he is today, or would you take Jeremiah Smith as he is today for this season? Don't account years in advance. Like, strictly this season.
Let me watch the guy play against a non-MAC team before I cast any kind. I think as it stands right now, it would be irresponsible to say I would take Jeremiah Smith over Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, if he goes out against a Penn State or Iowa or the big game and has similar stat lines, and he's got 2 more years, it's not going to be outrageous to say that. But I think we have to see him play a little bit of maybe more competitive football than Western Michigan and Akron. That's where I stand now. I don't think you could make the argument. I've seen a ton of people saying like there's not one single NFL team right now that would not take Jeremiah Smith right now, on their football team right now in their locker room. That's insane to say for a freshman that's, 18 years old. Kid can't buy beer yet. It's ridiculous.
Here's the other thing. I think that Marv never beat team up north, never won a national championship. This kid has so much potential to just win over the hearts of he's already winning it over. He's 211 yards already on the season, 3 tutties. I know it's MAC competition and all of that, but he also has an opportunity to go take down a team that we haven't beaten in a while. Has a really good shot at a natty. I mean, he has at least two or 3 chances at a natty. If we're being real. So has Sayin coming in after this season to help elevate him as well. I don't know. He's gonna go down as one of the greats for sure. Now again, pump the brakes, but whatever. We'll get to it. I love the kid. Got the jersey. Thank you again for
courtesy of me for being a terrible gambler. But it is what it is. All right, we've kind of beat a dead horse on the offensive side of the ball, but I talked last week how it just felt like Judkins didn't quite have the timing down. It felt like he was a little hesitant in the backfield as he got the ball, was just kind of running into a brick wall in the middle of the offensive line. This week was a snap of a finger. Just felt like you were watching college football 25 Judkins on the field. Has the 2 touchdowns, had 1 called back that you go back and look at the replay, and it's like that kind of holding happens on every single play of the game. So for that to get called was maybe a little iffy, but that 2-headed beast back there, along with James Peoples kind of coming into his own as a true freshman, is looking as advertised so far early on in the season. So a lot to be excited about there. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, a couple notable things. One being Cody Simon returning with the block O and having an immediate impact. Played very well, made some really big hits, just seemed like he was kind of the cornerstone of that defense. And like I said, the immediate presence was noticeable over CJ Hicks last week. The other thing that was interesting is that we played a little bit more 4-3 this week, where you saw Cody Simon, Arvell Reese, and Sony Styles all lining up as linebackers, which if I'm a defense, no shot in hell I'm trying to run against that. That's a terrifying, back 3 behind that stacked offensive or defensive line. But it was nice to see Cody Simon coming back, having that impact that I think we expected him to have. Obviously, he has the block O for a reason, very respected in the locker room, and really came out in a day where the Big Ten struggled against inferior opponents, made sure that, the defense was not going to let up against a team that, obviously they were much better than.
The other thing is Arvell Reese is here, and he's going to be here for a while.
Get to know that name, because he's going to be up there with one of the some of the best linebackers that have come through here. When it's all said and done, he's an animal.
And I'm curious on the CJ Hicks thing. I mean, again, we're only 2 games in, but I don't know. I don't know how you keep Arvell or Sonny or Cody off the field. There's that role. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Is there a different role that CJ Hicks would be a better fit for? Is that even here because of kind of how Knowles is running things, or how Larry Johnson is maybe preventing certain things to be ran? But I'm curious to see how that whole thing plays out. But that's Ohio State. We're okay. We can let a 5-star go or not, play his position and be okay, because we have dogs just everywhere. The other thing, and Hayden, you called it out a few times in the live chat, but the targeting, we were robbed of Denzel um, throughout that game. That was interesting interesting call, but
I don't know what you were supposed to do as a defender when a player gets hit and lowers his head into you who's already moving at full speed. Like there was no avoiding that. It was not a malicious headhunting. It's just a bang bang play. It's unfortunate. I We talked about it a little, off stream of I wish there was like something in the middle. If there's incidental helmet to helmet and you want to throw a 10-yard penalty, or if you even want to throw a 15-yard, whatever, the targeting and just getting ejected from a game on a play that is not malicious by any means, like that makes absolutely zero sense to me. It happens against Western Michigan. You kind of shrug your shoulders and move on. That happens against a Penn State or a Michigan, or you're in the college football playoffs. We've seen it happen before. It immediately changes a game. So it's. Okay. I hope they take a look at that in the future. Of, is there a way we can find a happy medium? But it just doesn't seem like they're all about players' protection, but they're also not not protecting like a player who's not actively trying to target somebody. Like you just took an opportunity away from a kid that he's never going to get back.
Mason commented here, like there was a part of me that was like, yeah, it might be called on downs, like when they went to go review. It just is so
get them both out of here.
Yeah, seriously, we don't, no place for that in this football game we play. Yeah,
I love how actively just dumb I am. We're on this live stream. I can see myself, and I keep throwing my right arm up and thinking I'm gonna see it in the camera, and it's this arm. It's over here. Yeah, I'm just absolute dummy on this side.
It's the first live stream. Let's give ourselves some grace. We're
at the beginning of the show, I was fist pumping with my right hand, and I was like, "Oh, my blurred background must be taking it out." And I'm like, "No, you idiot! It's your right arm. It's off of the camera." Anywho,
okay. I mean, is there a whole lot else to say? I mean, it was a beatdown. I also want to call out one thing. I'm a total psychopath, and I didn't realize it. Because I live in this bubble of like people love football, and I love to live in that bubble. But I also had my sister-in-laws over and their significant others during the game, and we were watching. I had the game on, and I kind of got not pulled to the side, but at the end of the night, they're like, "Why did you care? Like they beat them 56-0. Why'd you care?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I kind of forget. It's not. Yeah, it's not normal to like just sit here and like be hype about them scoring their 8th touchdown of the night." And I don't know. It's kind of a weird sport. So
it's I told Missy, I was like, I had so much fun last night, because she went to bed early. She was like, "Oh, was it a good game?" And I was like, "Oh, it was amazing." She was like, "What was the score?" I was like, 56-0. And she was like, "That doesn't sound like fun at all." And I was like, "It was the most fun I've had in a very long time, just watching our offense beat up on somebody, our defense dominate." But that was not the case for the rest of the Big Ten on Saturday. Hayden in the comments here asked about Oregon struggling against the entire state of Idaho. So obviously they had the tough go week 1 against Idaho, which I said last episode, didn't even know they had a football team. Week 2, they played Boise State, and it was a questionable call at the end away from them losing that. Personally, I thought he dropped the ball before he got into the end zone on that big run. Yeah. But they squeak out with a 3-point win against Boise State. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, Oregon might be in trouble. Like struggling back-to-back weeks against much more inferior opponents. Something doesn't seem to be right in Eugene. It makes me, this is the way my dumb college football like fan brain works. It makes me more nervous for the Ohio State Oregon game than if they were just beating people the way we were beating people.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way.
I don't know
I kind
why
of feel
that
that way. Well, it's just, I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes you play down to the competition. I mean, we saw a lot of last year with the Buckeyes that they're, the IU game was like a stupid start to the year. And
but IU was 23-3.
Yeah, true. But it just felt, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Like our struggles were 23-3, 35-9, or 35-3. Like these go a little bit beyond like slow starts, and we're just struggling. Like they're in dogfights against not very good football teams.
Yeah.
Ohio
State standard, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I feel the same exact way as you do. Is like there's clearly more confidence like in the overall team and like how things are humming for Ohio State. I don't love the week 3 bye, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or I guess we won't talk about it. Screw it. Like, week 3 bye, that's the dumbest shit.
Yeah, sorry, it feels off. You just got me. You got me all warmed up and ready to go. And now you make me take a weekend off. However, Spin Zone, I will be in San Antonio, so I won't miss a Buckeye game. That feels pretty good. Nobody else in the Big Ten really struggled on. Well, we did. Was there another big game? Oh,
the Big Noon Kickoff with
Noon Kickoff. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. It completely slipped my mind. Texas absolutely dog walked Michigan, and I know I said it about Oregon having problems, but Michigan has real problems, especially at QB. They've got wide receivers that can't separate from a wife that's beating them, and they've got a QB that literally cannot complete a pass, a wide open pass. Like it is just a terrible situation for that Michigan offense. Sorry, live stream. Here we go.
Anyways.
Yeah. But Warren seems to be really bad. Hayden just mentioned it. If they rolled with that the entire game, could not move the ball for the life of themselves, and still refused to put Alex Orji in the game, how bad has Alex Orji been this in like camp leading up to the season? Like, how bad do you have to be to lose your job to that? It's incredible to me that they're in that bad of a situation. And I
don't know how they didn't go get. I mean, I know they had a lot of stuff happen in the offseason. I don't know how you didn't bring in somebody to compete for a job.
Go bring in like a Will Rogers, like the
bring
guy
in Kyle McCord.
Okay, come on.
He would have done it.
No,
he would have done it.
That would have been
pissed down his leg when he came to Columbus. But
that would have been one of the most insane switch ups in the transfer portal era. But like there were guys they could have went and tried to go after. That program's in a bad spot. Not only did you get smacked at home, you got smacked in front of like 10 recruits that you brought in on official visits that watched you just get dog walked with the allegations pending, like the hammer's getting ready to come down.
Sherrod Moore doesn't have a contract.
Apparently. Yeah, he's just out there doing pro bono coaching work. That is a really bad situation right now in Ann Arbor. Mason in the comments said it very, very well. Thank you, Coach Harbaugh. He did the one thing that they needed, and then he ruined that program for this year and years to come. Having said that, a lot of football left. Obviously, they've got brand new bodies on the offensive line across the board, new quarterback. I don't want to get into this mindset that suddenly November 30th becomes this cakewalk, because it's never going to be that way when you suit up for the game. But things look pretty bad there. And I hope that as we continue to get better, that's an absolute trouncing, and that I can finally have a good Thanksgiving with my family.
I was going to say, my daughter will be able to see Ohio State beat Michigan for the first time in her life. So that'll be
it's cool. Insane. I know Barrett's been the curse. Has to be lifted this year. A couple comments in here. McCord was brought up. Dude's balling.
Okay. Yes, he is. That's where he needs to be. ACC, middle of the pack, Syracuse. Probably. Hey, they have a good shot. Happy for the kid, but sounds like that's where he belongs.
It was I don't know the best situation for both parties. I think the lights may have been a bit too bright in Columbus. He's now in a situation where eyes are off of him. I'm curious to see now that his name is just circulating, and I'm seeing all these tweets about McCord's X amount of touchdowns, X amount of yards. He's up there. It's like if all of a sudden now the national spotlight's back on him, do things start to go a little bit south? I think he'll be fine. I think he's a good QB. I've been proud of the way that Ohio State Twitter and fans have handled this. There hasn't been a ton of like, screw that guy, or why was he so dog shit at Ohio State, which he was. It's just, for the most part, been happy for the guy. Happy to see him doing well.
Found my burner account yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have not. Bucknut7427 on Twitter is the only one that I've seen. So, okay. The only other, we can talk about it really briefly, but Penn State just in a
hold
massive...
on. There's a bigger one that I care about. And none of them are watching, but it feels so good to see Notre Dame lose.
Oh yeah. It was so funny. We've got quite a few Notre Dame fans that we are good friends with here in Indianapolis. We got a text earlier this week that this felt like a game that, they're going to not play very well in, but it wasn't. This feels like a game they could lose. It felt pretty good. It felt pretty good to watch them get it's not even like they got smacked. They just killed them. Like they killed themselves. Like it was 16-14 and just a terrible, terrible game. You've got a transfer QB in Riley Leonard, who I have been high on, throughout the transfer portal process. And I even made a mention of it last week of like, my hot take is that we might look back at the end of the year and say, hey, I kind of wish we would have went more aggressively after, but I'm sitting in week 2 and I'm like, golly, that was a dumb take. Feel pretty good about Will Howard, and got to feel pretty bad about Riley Leonard in that Notre Dame offense. Seeing that kick blocked was it was a magical moment. Sitting on my couch, just a great way to round out that set of games. It was beautiful.
Yeah. It's always fun when they're competitive, again, for personal reasons, like in the group chat. It's always fun to like go, hey, maybe there's a shot that, and there's still a shot, I guess, to play them in the playoffs, but doesn't quite look like it when you're a 31-point favorite and lose to a MAC team. Now, I know you're going to briefly touch on Penn State, but I didn't want to overlook this because there's a team I am worried about, team that maybe overlooked a little bit. USC, like we did our Big Ten predictions. We talked about it. We kind of just overlooked, like, yep, that's a win for Nebraska. Yep, that's a win for Oregon. Luckily, Ohio State doesn't play them during the regular season, but there's a very good chance that we face them in the Big Ten title, right? Yeah. Like I think they're the second best Big Ten team as it looks today.
Yeah, if you had to say today who are the 2 best teams, you say Ohio State, USC. Penn State having the terrible game against our good friend in the comment, Hayden Schlechty's alma mater in Bowling Green. You've got Michigan getting killed by Texas. Like Oregon has looked shaky. USC seems to be in a good spot to make some noise in the Big Ten, a team that I had told you early on, I don't think they're going to be very good, but the QB is a lot better than I expected. And they just seem to be flowing pretty well. And I think, like you said, not a thing we have to worry about in the season, but when you get to that Big Ten championship game that we will both be at Lucas Oil.
Yep.
It starts to get, that's when the pressure is going to ramp up a little bit. And obviously that's a big game for the Buckeyes to win to secure that first round bye. Another team, I don't know if you were going to mention them, but we do play them.
Okay.
Nebraska.
Dude. They've got Patrick Apartments, I think was the name
Patrick
I called.
Apartments.
That was awesome.
He is it is freaky watching him like do his warm-ups, and it just it so looks crazy. It looks really odd. But there's two sides to the sword. Colorado's not good. They haven't been good since Deion got there. So they're fun to talk about for the first week of the season, and then they end up getting exposed when they play a halfway decent team. We saw it last year with Oregon, where they might as well have not gotten off the bus. This year, it happened much earlier with Nebraska. Deion's lack of ability to go recruit and get big bodies in for that offensive line. You've got Shedeur Sanders, who just has absolutely no opportunity at all to make plays when he's got people in his face, half a second after the snap. But Nebraska looks much improved over last year. That was my big bet coming into the year, was their over on wins. Their season is very favorable. Now, USC being a lot better than I expected throws a wrinkle in that, but Wisconsin looks a lot worse than I expected. So it's a little bit of those were my coin flip games for them. Iowa doesn't look great. So a little bit higher on Nebraska than I had initially thought. I still don't think there's going to be a big difference between a true freshman quarterback, in Dylan Ravioli throwing against Colorado secondary versus, trying to throw against Denzel Burke and Nate Newsom.
They're also, so I'm looking at the schedules. I think there's they're in a tough spot. Now they go to IU the week before. Mason called it out. IU dropped 77. Like they seem to be in a new era with Coach Sig. So that could be that could be a competition out there in Bloomington. And then they got to go on the road to Columbus versus Ohio State has the week off after the Oregon win to come back and prep and see how Apartments is doing and adjust. And yeah, like you said, he'll be throwing against a much different defense. He'll have a much different front seven coming up against them. Yeah, so
it's just going to be a little bit of a different feel there when all of a sudden the switch flips and you've got first round draft picks at almost every position on the defensive side of the ball. Like, how does a true freshman react in those kinds of situations versus Colorado secondary that I'm not sure that they could stop me, you, Hayden, and Mason in a game of backyard football.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, listen, man, that's going to be a fun game. They currently don't have the time. So that could be a night game. It's that like Halloween weekend, basically, where most people will celebrate, do their Halloween get-togethers and all of that. So it's always a fun spot. It used to be where a lot of the Penn State games would happen the past few years. So some potential excitement there. But yeah, man, I'm worried about USC, less worried about Oregon, definitely less worried about Michigan. But yeah, there's a lot of potential there in the Big Ten. Then some other things going on. Bama struggled a little bit against USF again, but then ends up winning by 42 to 17.
Yeah, that was a little bit of if you're just looking at the box score, you go, okay, Bama. But if you sat and watched that game, they struggled for a very, very good portion of that game. I still don't know what to think about that team. I think it's going to take them a little bit of time to get their bearings with new head coach. We did get jumped in the polls by Texas. I think it's still sitting. Georgia goes to Texas now at 2 and us at 3, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think they earned the jump with their performance there. But you'll start to see kind of that playoff picture evolve as the season goes on. And when you look back at these kinds of games, if Alabama has a loss or two, and they look back at the USF game, like, how does the playoff committee start to consider that performance early on in the season? Like, those are the things that are going to be interesting when you consider 12 teams. It's not quite as black and white as we've got 4 teams. Let's go find the 4 teams with the best records and move on from there.
Yeah. It's what a year to have a 12 team playoff, baby.
I know.
There's going to be so much chaos. Oh my God.
We say what a year, but right now, if you look at it, it's like it looks like there's 3 teams that really or this would be like the one year where I'm like 4 teams, seems like there's only 3 that really won it right now, but as the season evolves, we'll start to get a better picture.
I don't know. There's teams like Tennessee lurking. There's teams like, again, USC's there. And there's a lot of football left. I'm just very much looking forward to the chaos that's going to be taken on in that window. Just going to be crazy times. But any other general kind of college football thoughts? I want to do a stat check-in on some of the predictions we made, and then we can go carry on and watch Aaron Rodgers potentially rupture his Achilles again. I don't have the game on.
Hey. Who scored for the Jets, by the way? I haven't really put my eye up there.
Was it Garrett Wilson? I hope.
I don't know. I've got quite a few little same game parlays out there. Next stream, we should probably try and put just our same game parlay up as just like a ticker. That'd be a good little add-on. Breece Hall is who ended up in the end zone. But yeah, let's do the quick stat check-in. Hayden, you provided some bold predictions on yours as well, so we'll give you some insights into where we're at.
So here's kind of there were kind of 4 stats that we really focused in on the final kind of prediction episode. So the over-under that you had set for points on the season was 480 and a half. They are currently on pace for 648 points. Now, again, first 2 weeks, it's MAC MAC teams that they're playing.
Yeah.
They're putting up 50 plus. Clearly, Penn State, some of these other games, they're going to be a little tighter potentially. But currently on pace to beat that. Even with it does make me feel
a little worse about it, because if it would have started off like 2 games and like 42-ish, it would have been but having 2 back-to-back games in the mid-50s, with a lot of meat left on the bone on our schedule, makes me a little nervous on it. But we'll see how that one goes.
Yep. Okay, Jeremiah Smith, a freshman, has never broken 500 yards. In his freshman season, we had set the line at 849 and a half. He is currently on pace for over 1,200. Hayden, I remember you calling it. You said that there were going to be 3 wide receivers over 1,000, I believe was the prediction there. So tracking pretty well on the JJ side, at least. He has 211 yards. So he is only he's only less than 300 yards away, and we are only in week 2 from breaking the freshman record, which is insane.
And when you think about we had the missed deep ball, which would have been another 70 yards, and he dropped his first pass of his career, which had the makes to go for 60 yards. So this dude could have been on pace to have freaky numbers, even more than they are right now. I think nothing but really, really good things to come from him. It is kind of funny, true freshman, you have Emeka Ibuka, who's a potential first-round draft pick, Carnell Tate. It sure looks like Will Howard's first option, the place he's looking the most, is Jeremiah Smith. I didn't think that was going to happen this early in the season. I thought that would be we got 5-6 games in and you started to see a shift. It seems like he is he's the guy. He's the number 1 right now for this team. Yeah.
And Ibuka, Hayden, to your point, he had a good game. My prediction before last week was 100 yards. I thought he was going to get a tutty. He didn't, but he got 98 yards. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, I'm curious. There's a lot of talk in the offseason of using him in different ways. I haven't seen it as much yet, but
I
still
we'll think there's several parts of that playbook that have not even been thought about getting cracked open. And Emeka being used more in the run game, like Chip Kelly used to do very, very well when he was at Oregon. Like those things are going to start happening to get him loose in space where he's really good with the ball in his hand. So be patient. Those things are going to happen. It's a long season. And we have some fun new toys that we're trying to get warmed up. So it'll happen.
Fun new toys to get warmed up.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith and Judkins got to get a little oil in there, give them a little loose.
God, live stream. All right. Howard, 2,800 yards was the line on that. I went under. Stupid. Dumb. Don't know why I did that. He is currently on pace for 3,100 just for the regular season. He has 520 yards. Again, some of that will maybe be, I don't know. It's not like he's had like crazy. I mean, I guess he's really only had like 240 and 290 or something like that. So there's a lot of stat lines that will match that throughout the year, even against tougher competition. So
yeah,
see how things go there, but tracking pretty damn well. Emeka, 12.5 touchdowns, on pace for 6. Only had, 1 touchdown in the first 2 games, but I think that we can still get there, right?
Yeah,
I know JJ is the number 1, but
that one feels like it's, had the opportunity in the first game that didn't get called that we talked about last week. Like he's going to find the end zone, and like we just mentioned, like have not really started to get into like him having the jet sweeps and the end arounds. He'll get there. I'm still confident in the over on that one. And you have to think defenses are going to start having that bigger shift towards Jeremiah Smith that opens him up a little bit. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what the hell you do if you're a defense trying to game plan for this offense, but I'm still confident he gets there. It's going to take a little bit of elbow grease, but we'll get there.
Okay, so those are the only stats that we had like kind of really focused in on. Curious on this one. I thought that we were gonna get one this past week. There wasn't as much explosion in the punt return, but I mean he was still catching them and all that, which is still matters. So I think we get one though, right? We got to get one this season.
So over under on Ennis touchdown returns was a question from longtime listener Mason. I think you set this at 1.5. I think that's where you set it. When you think about how difficult it is, and like last week was a perfect example, never really got an opportunity. Like the getting more than 2 in a season is tough, but I think he's going to have the chance to break 1 or 2 once we get a little bit deeper into the season. It just seems like he didn't have the chances last week, but you saw all the ability in week 1. Hayden had asked if it's at 2.5. I think we go over under 1.5. What's your feeling on it?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had. I think that's the stat. Maybe I got caught up in. I don't think we've had a return, and I forget. Maybe it was 2014. It's been a long time since we had one, so I'll take 1. I think the right line's 1.5 though, based on again the focus from Ryan Day, who we have back there. Yeah, I think that we could have a big moment, a big Heisman moment.
I want to see one happen. And Hayden just commented, please do one against Michigan and pull the Desmond Howard. Like, I want to see one of those game-changing moments against a big matchup. Like having one against Western Michigan or, Marshall here in 2 weeks would be really cool. But to have your defense get a big stop, immediately score on special teams and send them back up there when you're fired up, like that's those game-changing things that we have not had in the return game in a while. Brandon Ennis has all the tools to do those things and do them at a high level. We just have to give him the opportunities. That's what I want to see. Like I want one of those to come against a Penn State or a Michigan and make that big statement play from special teams that we have not necessarily seen in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Last question I have. We don't have a game this week to ask this question on, and I'm curious to see the comments feedback as well as you answer. But still haven't seen Caleb Downs on the offensive side of the ball. Think that they're still holding out hope that comes at a later date for all Caleb Downs to get in there.
I think it'll happen.
Okay.
It's so tough to do that when like there just hasn't been the need, and it's tougher to do when we struggled week 1 in the run game. Now that things have opened up a little bit, like, do you give them a chance? Like, the offensive line's gelling a little bit better. We've got another week. I still think it happens. I don't know if it happens against Marshall, but you're going to see Caleb Downs on the offensive side of the ball at at some point in time in the season, whether that's a misdirection type play or if they really want to give him the ball and see what he can do in space. But I think you'll see it.
Okay.
Are you off of it now? You were hot on it at the beginning of the year, but you seem to be trickling off on the on the Caleb Downs offensive possession.
My whole thought, and Hayden's comments pretty consistent with this, is like at least put it on tape so that Oregon has to think about it. Penn State has to think about it. Michigan has to think about it, etc. The fact that they haven't shown it yet makes me think, like, do you really want to? I know he's Caleb Downs. I know he was the best freshman in football last year. Do you really want to test that out without,
So
Jeremiah Smith had again, he's a freshman and he's all the things, but like he had a couple little hiccups to start things off. So but do you really want to put him out there? I don't know.
What I think happens, and like where my mind is at on this, is Caleb Downs goes out for an offensive possession or a play, but he isn't necessarily used. It's like Oregon sees him trot on the field and they're like, okay, this is probably a designed play for Caleb Downs, something they haven't shown anybody yet. You get somebody to bite on a stupid play, and that's kind of where I see it. My whole thought on it is like, when you have Quinshon Judkins and you have Travion Henderson, do you really want to get cute and handing the ball off to a guy that hasn't been on the field all year? I don't think you do. Mason said it very well. If it isn't broke, do not fix it. So I'm off. I don't think we're going to. I don't think we're going to see it this year. I think he is doing perfectly fine at safety, running 21 miles an hour down the seam to stop a guy in his tracks, which was one of my favorite plays on the defensive side of the ball from last week. It just seemed like he was there in the blink of an eye of a run that I thought had a chance to go for 4 or 5 yards. He just absolutely demolished a guy. Yeah. So I'm off the offensive side, but I wouldn't hate to see it.
Hayden
there it is.
Does not like this. He does not like this.
There it is.
All right. Well, it's been a beautiful stream, number one. Again, no game to preview, but we will be back next Monday to preview the great matchup against Marshall. Cannot wait. And then, I forgot that we invested heavily into AI
artificial intelligence. No, this was a ton of fun. Just a big thank you to Mason and Hayden for hanging out, asking questions, participating. Made the first live stream a lot more enjoyable. So got to appreciate some friends coming through and supporting what we're doing. I cannot tell you guys how much I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all. Again, we'll be back next week, and check us out on Twitter at Buckeye Breakdown or at Buckeye BD. We will catch you over there. So see y'all.
See you guys. Go Bucks.